What's up, everybody? Thanks again for stopping by for another edition of March 4th with Mike Bauman. I, of course, am your host, Mike Bauman. Whoever you are, wherever you are listening from, thank you so much for checking out the Badcast. If you're a returning listener, I greatly appreciate your continued love and support. And if you're a brand new listener of the show, man, thank you so much for hopping aboard that pirate ship. You can follow me on Instagram at March 4th Pod. I am on YouTube at March 4th Pod. The links to all of my stuff are in the podcast description for this episode. If you made it here, then that means you found me somehow. And I truly appreciate each and every one of you taking the time to check out another edition of the March 4th with Mike Bauman podcast. I hope that everybody is doing well out there. I hope that life finds you well. Just like the theme of the show, man, March 4th, perseverance, moving forward. We've got about 3.5 months left in 2024. So whatever goals that you have, whatever things that you want to accomplish, things you want to change, you've got about 3.5 months left in the year. If you want to get them done before 2024, fall is upon us. Football is here. I'm really excited, man. It's a great time of the year. I'm so looking forward to this final chapter, 2024, man. I feel like this year has flown by, but it's been a positive one. It's been a productive one. Again, I'm humbled and truly grateful for all of the people checking out the podcast. If this week's guest brought you here and you're a first time listener, once again, welcome aboard the pirate ship. But for real, man, Sundays are usually when I put together the intro and the close to the shows. That's just usually when I have time to catch up on everything on the weekends, after my day job during the week and scheduling shows and doing shows during the week. I usually put everything together on the weekends. And I tend to get a little reflective on Sundays, watch a little foosball, but on this sunny Sunday evening, as I record the intro and close to this week's show, man, I'm truly filled with a lot of gratitude for my family, all my close friends, and my ride or dies in my life, and for all of you who listen to this show and continue to help it grow. Truly, anybody who takes the time to listen to the show, I really appreciate it, man, because that's what I'm all about. This is what I'm leaving behind when my time is up, and hopefully it's not up until I'm in my mid 80s, another 50 years, man. But it really means a lot to be able to connect with people in a positive way. That's something that I hope is part of my legacy. Is for whatever time I was in somebody's life, when I leave, or when they leave, or I'm just no longer here anymore, or no longer part of their world anymore. I hope that whenever I cross their mind, or whenever they listen to this show, that they can look back on their time with me and smile or laugh. And that might sound cheesy to some people, but that's really what I care about, man, is just leaving behind a legacy of being a good dude. And for those of you who don't know me, I mean, this is stuff that I've been interested in for a really long time. I wrote for the student paper when I was a senior in high school. The Centric was a sports editor, continued to do sports writing in college. Shout out to the University of Toledo. Just had a big win over Mississippi State down in Mississippi. They essentially got paid about 1.2 million to go in there and give them a butt whooping. So I gotta toot the horn for the alma mater, the Rockets. I'm really excited for them. I actually might go see them when they play Western Kentucky. I digress, but I continued sports writing, continued that journey when I was in college. And but I've always loved music, and got a chance to start doing music feature stories the year after I graduated for Toledo Free Press, which is no longer around anymore, but the archive, some of the archive anyway, you can find online. And so this is stuff that I've been doing for a long time. I love music. I love connecting with people. Even when I was doing sports writing, man, my favorite thing was always the feature stories. As cool as it was to go to the games and get fed and be in the press box and, you know, being treated really well there. Shout out to everybody at the Glass Bowl, man. As cool as, and all the road games I got to do, as cool as that was, I always enjoyed the story behind the athletes more than I enjoyed the game stories. As fun as it was to go to the games, because I love sports, So this is stuff that I've been doing for a long time, and the podcast I feel like is just I feel like it's the truest form and most authentic form to me. Just these conversations and mental health and how important that is to me, my own mental health struggles, which I've been fairly open about on this show in terms of anxiety and some obsessive compulsive tendencies and overthinking and intrusive thoughts, all things that I battle on a daily basis. Therapy's been a big help, exercise is a big help, and music is a huge help. In addition to my close friends and family that listen to me vent and rant and give me good advice. People I can count on to tell me um, in a kind way, but to tell me, when my breath stinks and I need to take a shower, or when I look good and I smell great. It's good to have people who are honest with you, but in a kind way. So all that to say that doing this podcast, getting back into it consistently over the last 4+ years now, has really been a light in my life, and I hope it's a light in the lives of the people who listen, because it is very personal. Mental health is really important to me, and I'm happy to be able to have a platform where we can have discussions that involve darkness, but that are done to show people that you can, go through those dark times and get to the light, the way that guests of the show do, the way that I've done, especially over these last 4 years of my life, 3, 4 years, and the challenges that have come my way. um, and that's life, right? It's filled with ups and downs. There's going to be another hill to climb. There's going to be more waves, but it's learning how to roll with the punches in life and deal with those things when they come, and also dealing with the highs when they come, dealing with the victories when they come, and just kind of keeping that even keel, cool as a cucumber, as my mom would say, attitude. So it's a balance, and I try to do my best with that balance. I definitely need to be more disciplined about my sleep. That's kind of a running theme, because I've just, when I was younger, man, I could run on next to nothing. 4 or 5 hours, I was good. I would study in college, work part time, go to school full time, all that stuff. In my mid 30s now, I can't do that no more. It affects your productivity, and it affects my stress levels too, man. When I get exhausted, that's when I start to get kind of panicky. So that's something I'm working on. But hey, we're human. We're all works in progress. But overall, 2024 has been a good year, man. And I hope it's been a great year for all of you as well. And again, if not, you got 3.5 months left in the year. If there's any goals or any boxes that you want to check off in a positive way to close out 2024. So wishing you and yours well. Again, thank you for taking the time to join this week's show. If this week's guest brought you here, man, they're a great one. I'm going to get right into it because I have a tendency to rant, and I see I've already been going about 8 minutes. They've had my coffee today. But just on all the things I was just talking about, man, mental health, perseverance, moving forward, walking through the darkness to get to the light. This week's guest is truly the embodiment of what this podcast is all about in terms of marching forth and overcoming and pushing through tough times. They are none other than Trauma Therapy. They're a metalcore/rock band based in Charlotte, North Carolina. Shout out to Charlotte. I've got a couple of cousins who live there. Love you, Linz. Love you, Shan and fam. Love you, Mark, and the kids. Love all of yous. But these guys are great guys, man. It was funny how this all came together. So Johnny Zirkle, quick little backstory. He has been a huge supporter of the show. He has sent me numerous awesome guests over the years, and I truly appreciate it. Great singer and producer, and great PR guy. And he sent me a lot of awesome artists. And one of the awesome artists that he sent me a little over a year ago was another band out of Charlotte called Forever May Fall. Friends of the show, shout out to those guys. Multiple time appearances on the podcast. And ironically, Trauma Therapy had already started to kind of come on my radar on Instagram because I'm friends with Forever May Fall. And then I saw an email from Johnny about getting Trauma Therapy on the show. And I said, dude, it's wild you say that because I've been seeing some stuff pop up on Instagram, and I'm pretty sure the singer of Trauma Therapy is married to the singer of Forever May Fall. And lo and behold, that was the case. So this week from Trauma Therapy, we've got their frontman, Chris Carrington, and their drummer, Aaron Kirkland, on the show. And Chris is married to Jill, who is the lead singer of Forever May Fall. She's got a hell of a voice as well. Awesome band. Check those guys out. Finish the episode first, please, but definitely check out Forever May Fall. But yeah, Chris and I started to message via text before we even spoke for this podcast, and got a chance to see their music video for their debut single, Fix My Heart. As of this episode coming out, it's already approaching 10,000 views on YouTube for the music video, which is very powerful and very personal. Also features his wife, Jill, in it. And the single itself, I have Spotify, so just seeing the numbers on Spotify, it's approaching 10,000 streams, which is awesome for the first month of its release. I think it was August 23rd when it came out, and I spoke to him and Aaron on August 15th. So right about a month before the show is coming out. So it's really awesome to see in such a short period of time the amount of success that these guys are seeing as a new band. They were established in late 2022, and this is like a super personal song, man. And I don't want to give too much away here in the intro as we get into it in the conversation. But like I said, Chris and I messaged before we even did this conversation, and this song, it's in the lyrics, it's in the music video. I mean, it is his mental health struggle, and pushing through that, and the difficulties that he's experienced, but using his voice and using his music as a platform to discuss those struggles, and use music as a positive tool to share it with all the listeners out there. And it hit me, as somebody who struggles with some mental health issues. Um, and it hit me in a positive way, because I'm like, this again, this is exactly what this show is all about. It's using your platform to shine a light on these things and let people know that it's okay to not be okay, and to find healthy outlets to deal with those mental health issues, and to deal with those struggles and some of those things that that we don't share necessarily with everybody, man. And to get him and Aaron on here and learn about how they connected and how Aaron got in the band, learn about who these guys have been working with, everybody from Pangea Productions to Cody Weisinger from the Funeral Portrait. I hope I'm saying your name right, Cody. Will Baker, Holt Crevar, who is an awesome guy, multiple time guest of the show in Forever May Fall. So this is an awesome debut single for Fix My Heart from Trauma Therapy. And we had a great conversation discussing that and everything they've been working on in mental health, man. So without further ado, I'm going to shut my big yapper and give you guys my conversation with Chris Carrington and Aaron Kirkland of Trauma Therapy. Here it is. All right, fellas. Well, thank you again for taking the time to join the show. I'm really excited to talk to you. At the time this hits everybody's eardrums, the debut single, Fix My Heart from Trauma Therapy, is going to be out. So thanks for coming aboard the pirate ship, fellas.
Thanks for having us.
And before we get going officially, why don't you tell people your names and what you play in the band, and then that way when you're talking, they know who's speaking.
All right, my name is Aaron Kirkland, and I play drums.
So I'm Chris Carrington. I'm the front man.
Well, thanks again for joining, fellas. I know we were getting to know each other a little bit more even before I hit record, but Chris, like we were messaging about as we were setting up this podcast, and shout out Johnny, who's been a big supporter of the show, man. But the meaning behind the band name Trauma Therapy, the Fix My Heart video, and just how deep that is and how personal that is in the lyrics. It's so in my wheelhouse, and I want to get into all of it. But just as kind of a place to start, usually where I like to start with guests is just, how did you guys get into music, man? What was the bug that bit you? What's your earliest memory with it?
So for me, I guess you could say music kind of runs in my family. My dad, he was a saxophone player. He took high school band. I think he actually played in a couple of bands that, played at some bars or, pubs or what have you. My uncle was a guitar player, and I think he played a little percussion. And my aunt, she was in marching band and she played a lot of like the wind instruments, like the flute, clarinet, and I think she did a little percussion herself. Um, to my knowledge, I'm the only one out of that side of my family that did anything vocally. I played guitar for a little bit, but working on cars, I have carpal tunnel after 15 years, and it's really hard for me to play guitar. I can still play bass guitar. I just prefer to be a front man. I have a lot of energy when it comes to being on stage, and my favorite thing in the world is being able to control a room full of people, and just interact with, like little kids in the front row, or just fans in general, or even my own bandmates joking around, having fun on stage. So, like, I think that's where it started. Over the course of like the next decade or so, like I kind of dropped music. I wanted to work in NASCAR. That's why I moved to North Carolina. Originally Chicago / Northwest Indiana, born and raised, but I moved here in 2012. Worked in racing for a little bit, and then I got tired of the same old, being gone all the time. Never really had time to play guitar. I would always catch myself going to karaoke on my nights off, before I just finally realized, I'm like, maybe I could, maybe go to open mic nights and, on my nights off, and maybe I could start getting back into music again. And so that's what I did. And then when I realized how difficult it was for me to actually play guitar, I got a friend of mine to come along with me, and I played bass instead. And that worked out for a little bit. And then I went back to racing. And then finally, when I got out in 2018, I was like, well, I kind of want to play music. So I got into another band. We were like a tribute cover band, just locally, more karaoke stuff. And then I got into the local Charlotte music scene and abroad when I started my own project called Fault Line. That was very short-lived. It was a couple of years, but we only played 3 or 4 shows. And then we just disbanded after that. It takes a lot to run a band, not just financially, but just you have to have the right people. Everybody's got to be on the same page. So not having everybody all on the same page kind of played a role in that. And then just over the last few years, bouncing around, I finally just ended up getting my other band that I was in. We made the decision for me to part ways with them about 2 years ago. And then Jill and Colt actually just kept pushing me. I did a song with him. I did a cover song. I covered 45 by Shinedown. And I put that out on Spotify last year, I think, or the year before. And Colt was like, I really want to see you back on stage. And he's like, I really think you should do it. And then one of our other members, Travis, who's not here tonight, he's our other guitar player. I met him on Facebook Marketplace, and then, or not Marketplace, on Facebook in general, on one of the groups. He was looking for a band. He just moved to Charlotte from New York. And so he came over and just kind of hung out. We jammed a little bit. And then the second time he came over, I hooked up, in-ears and a mic and got him all wired up and whatever. Like, we just kind of jammed out and jammed some covers. And we've been friends ever since. And then I met Aaron through a mutual friend of ours, and then kind of talked to him a little bit. This is about a year ago now. And then I just found the 4th missing piece about 6 months ago. Aiden, who's our other guitar player, he is a teenage prodigy. And I don't say that lightly, because he just turned 18, and he is like Colt's Crevar 2.0. He does a lot of our production for like our songs and stuff. which really helps. He's an incredible guitar player, and for him to be 18 and to know what he knows, and just the drive and the energy, like I kind of see my younger self in him. So I'm just excited that like the four of us kind of came together, and like now we have this project. And there was a time where I was trying to think of the name for the band, and Jill actually thought of the band name. She goes, why don't you call it Trauma Therapy? And I'm like, that's kind of catchy. And then the more her and I talked about it, and I talked to them too, I was like, I think we could actually have something with this, like where if we all collectively talk about our experiences and find a way to like relate them into songs or videos, I'm like, a lot of people can relate to this. And you said it yourself, like this is right in your wheelhouse. So I kind of feel a little special right now because I've touched you in some way, that not only because of Johnny, you've reached out to me and to us, but like I feel like you relate to it, and it kind of hits close to home. And like that's what I'm out here to do. Like I want to make an impact on people, and I want to make sure that people know like it's okay to not be okay. And there is light at the end of the tunnel, but you have to be the one to put in the work, and you have to be the one to do it. So
100%, man. And thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I'm honored that you're here, man, and that you've been able to push through and keep singing and chasing down your love for music. So Aaron, he mentioned that you guys met through mutual friends, but how about you, man? How did you get into music and drumming? How long you been at it?
Well, I've been playing probably close to 18 years now, something like that. But I remember I guess when it was started, it's really my dad. Didn't know really drumming up music anyways. He always took me to concerts since I was 3 years old, And then I can't remember what age it was, but I remember going to my cousin's house, and he had a set of drums over there, and him and his dad played. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's what I need to do. I want to do that. And that's pretty much all. That's pretty much all it's been, really. And I haven't stopped since. I haven't looked back. So
Yeah, so tell me a little bit more about how you guys got linked up and
um,
then joining the band.
all right. So for me, I was in the process of trying to find a band for like 4 or 5 months probably before we met each other. And this, what was his name? I can't remember his name. Anthony. Yeah. He I met with him online, and he was start something, and fell through, and that never happened. And then one day I'm sitting at the hotel out of town, and I get a message saying, I got somebody you need to talk to. You need a drummer. And I talked to him, it was him. So I ended up messaging him. We ended up messaging back and forth, and now here we are.
yeah, that was literally about a year ago.
Yeah.
So it's crazy how everything just comes full circle.
So when you first jammed, do you guys remember what you first played, or where you felt like there was like a chemistry? Was it pretty instant?
So the first time we actually jammed was actually back in May when we filmed the video for Fix My Heart.
Yeah.
So we've never actually like hung out and jammed.
Yeah. We gotta do that stuff.
Yeah, we got a couple of things to do first as far as releasing some music and stuff. When we start building a sound rig and actually practicing our material, ideally the plan is to play a few shows next year. I would have liked to play some this year, but the way the deadlines went and with my wedding and everything, I really just needed to focus on my wedding. And I told myself and them, I'm like, we have to get this song out this year before my wedding. So that's exactly what we're doing. And then literally a week and a half later, I'm getting married. So the plan is to get maybe one more out this year, financially depending, obviously, but the plan is to hit the ground running after the first of the year. And then maybe end of summer or fall next year, we can start booking a show. So hopefully the next summer, there'll be a lot of jam sessions.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Well, and again, for people listening, I mean, this is all brand new, in terms of this band, and this is y'all's debut single. One thing I like to ask people too, Even though I like to let the conversation flow, there's still like core things just because, I've talked about it with some other people, but when you meet fellow like heavy music fans or alternative music fans, it's kind of like that Spider-Man meme where you're like, oh, you too, sweet, because it still is kind of like left to center a little bit, even though I feel like heavy music right now is having an awesome moment. Like it's from like Spirit Box to like Bad Omens to falling in reverse. Like, I mean, like there's a lot of stuff going on, even like Sleep Token, like, bringing in like an R&B kind of like soulful kind of element. Like it's Slipknot's doing their 25-year thing. Like it's an awesome time for heavy music. I digress. But
Let's not forget that Gojira just played the Olympics.
yes, yes, yes. I Yeah, like there's so much going on. I love Gojira too, man. I finally got a chance to see those guys. I'm still kicking myself because back in the day, quick sidebar, I do this a lot. But back in the day, they played in Detroit and they played with I think I'm saying their name right, Clevertac, who I believe is from overseas, and they also played with Mastodon. And I was like, dude, that would be such a sick show. And I didn't go. I was like, oh. And then so when I moved to Nashville, I was like, all right, I'm in the music city. Everybody and their brother likes to play Nashville because it's the music city. And that was what was cool about growing up in Toledo too, because Detroit's got a lot of rich music history. And so a lot of people love playing the Motor City. Um, I'll manifest that you guys play there one day, man, because it's sick. Like Detroit knows how to Detroit knows how to throw down. They know how to have a good time at a show, man. And they can feel it if you're bringing it. But Nashville, obviously, with all the history here, not just country, but everything. And so I was like, okay, so Mastodon came and they played the Ryman, which is one of my favorite venues I've ever been to. And then they were supposed to tour Gojira and Deftones during COVID. And then obviously COVID put the kibosh on that, like a lot of people's stuff. But they came and ended up doing that show. It was 2 years ago, May. And I got a chance to see, and like Gojira like reverberated like my whole body. I was like, damn, it's like earth metal. It's like the only way I can, like, I know there's a lot of subgenres, but their music just sounds like, and so to see them play the Olympics, that was awesome. Like the whole like Marie Antoinette thing with like holding the head and like I know people like, this will be my last rant on this, I promise. But I was just texting with somebody about this the other day. And I was like, look, they were sick. You got to watch it because they hadn't seen them play the opening ceremony. I was like, it was awesome. They're from France. But I was like, I got onto them about maybe 10 years ago. And to me, that was like a good example of the Olympics and what Gojira did of like, this is why we need a heavy band at the Super Bowl. And I'm tired of hearing of, oh, it's not good for the kids. It's like, come on, man. Like metal people are some of the coolest people on the planet. um, Metallica should have played the Super Bowl in San Francisco. That was such a diss, I felt like and I think they did something like the day before where the Giants played, but yeah, Gojira playing the Olympics was sick and they're amazing live. So yeah, it's a great time for heavy music. Long way of me getting to my actual question of how did you guys get into heavy music or alternative music? Do you remember like the first song you heard or the first band? Was it a relative? Who got you into the heavy realm?
For me, I can't remember how really, but the first bands I remember listening to, Slipknot and Betrayed. That's the first group I remember listening to. I've been waiting for the bus in middle school. That's the first ones I remember. But
So for me, it's funny you say Atreyu. It was actually Atreyu. So fun fact about me, I used to bowl a lot. Growing up in the Midwest, it's like a rite of passage. Like when it's wintertime, you either play football outside or you find an indoor sport. It's either hockey, football, or bowling. And ever since I was a little kid, my grandfather taught me how to bowl. And so I came across a video it was about a particular bowling ball and they were trying to promote it. It was like the new up and coming product or whatever. And I was like, yeah, let me click that and check this ball out because I think I want one. And I clicked it. I'm watching this review video, and it was the song "Crimson" by Atreyu, and just I don't know, like the way the song and the ball like hooked down the lane. Like I was like, man, I need that ball. And so I went to go drill one up, and I left the pro shop, and I go get a bowling lane, and I get set up and whatever, and I was like, something's missing. And I went to go put my headphones in, and I'm like, what was that song? And I went on my phone, and I was like, Yeah, we're gonna play that by Atreyu the whole time I'm throwing this bowling ball down the lane. Um, but before that, I think like I was into like Bon Jovi and like Kiss and Aerosmith. So like I had good music taste growing up, with all those bands. You know, Black Sabbath. I kind of got a little bit of both from my dad and my mom. So like I blame more my mom than my dad because my mom was into Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath and stuff like that. And as I got older, I got into 3 Days Grace, Atreyu, and then I just I went through my emo phase and like found My Chemical Romance and yeah. So
I basically did the same thing with all them too. Yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned too, like the members of your family that were musical but not vocally. When did you first try singing, Chris?
so I got in a choir actually when I was in elementary school. My mom enrolled me. It was actually a mandatory class. And then when my instructor uh, told my mom and my dad, he's really good. And so I remember I had a couple of solos throughout some of our performances. And then usually when it came to me harmonizing with some of the other kids, my vocal coach or my teacher was like, you know, can you match that pitch or can you harmonize with them or can you go like a higher or lower? And I was just I don't know, like it just came naturally. And I mean I've never really had when I was a kid I never really had professional coaching lessons. And then as I got older, I just noticed I started singing with the radio. I started singing with my with iTunes, whatever I was listening to. If I'd go to the gym, like I was kind of nodding my head to it, and driving around the car, same thing. Um, and then obviously more so recently, a couple of years ago, I got hooked up with Jamie Bandera, and he did some vocal coaching lessons with me. And I don't know, just lately over the last probably year or so, maybe two, um, I think my wife and I have kind of been feeding off of each other vocally, which makes for an interesting dynamic in the house with two front people. So we've taught each like I'm currently teaching her a little bit of screaming, which is something I never thought I'd ever say. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and for people listening, if they're not aware, because I know we'll have some Forever May Fall fans for sure listening to this, but so Chris's wife Jill is the lead singer in Forever May Fall, also a sick band, and yeah, I think that's a cool dynamic. And since you brought that up, man, like, yeah, what is that like? Being in a relationship with another singer, man, because like you said, there's obviously she's got an awesome range, and there's things that you can do too, but and not only being with somebody who's also a singer, but somebody who also makes music that's in the same wheelhouse. That's got to be pretty cool.
So it's interesting. I will say that. And you mentioned her range. It's ridiculous. I mean, the highest note that I've heard her hit is a C6. Um, and it's to me is just like, wow. And respectively, it makes it unique because, like you said, there are plenty of things that she can do that I can't. And there's plenty of things that I can do that she can't. And we're both like belting singers and we have obnoxious range, but at the same time, like I said, we differ because she's just a touch higher than me, maybe a little more, and I have a little more bass in my voice, so like I can do some guttural screams and some things like that, and so the dynamic is very interesting. Um, it's actually surprisingly, it's some would probably think it's competitive between the two of us because we're both in the same genre of music. But it's actually the complete opposite. Um, I've been her like one of her biggest fans since before we met, and I'm still, as far as I'm concerned, I'm still her biggest fan today. Um, some of the things that they've done are just out of this world. It's cool. Um, for me to have any remote opportunity to do the same things is pretty sweet. Um, we both we have the same opportunities to work with the same producers or the same videographers. Um, we both have similar connections in the music industry. Certain areas, are her strength where she has connections and I don't, or I have connections that she doesn't. And just like to watch our brains like work together. We finally we sat down and had a writing session together last year. Lucky, would you like to say something? We finally had a writing session together, just her and I, just writing some lyrics and stuff. Not to spoil anything, but we have another track coming out that I wrote with Colt, and Jill and I have wrote all the lyrics and the vocal melodies for that. So that'll be coming out here pretty soon, and it was pretty awesome to be able to write with her and have that experience. So
That's cool, man. Yeah, it's I again, I think that's pretty awesome because you guys being in the same kind of musical wheelhouse is cool too. And selfishly, the Alter Bridge fan in me, because they're one of my favorite bands. I'm just throwing this out there, and I know like by the time this comes out, I mean you're in the middle of wedding, getting this single out, just getting everything off the ground with trauma therapy, but in the future, I'm just gonna plant this seed. I would love to see you guys do a cover of Watch Over You from Alter Bridge. Because I think with both your vocal ranges, um, I've always loved that song. It is kind of it's but and we can talk about this a little bit too, but I'm a big fan of like really good sad songs too. Like I love heavy, gnarly stuff. I do, but I love like a really good sad song. That one's kind of a sad slash uplifting song, but I think you guys would kill it if you ever did like a dual cover of Watch Over You from Alter Bridge. I don't know if you're familiar with that track or not, but it's awesome.
I am. I actually, Metalingus is probably my favorite song by them. I think that would be pretty killer for us to do a cover like that. We there's a song too. It's skipping my brain right now by A Day to Remember. But it's got him and I can't remember her name.
Talking about, it means a lot to you.
No, I'd have to look it up on Spotify. But I wrote, so I have 4 songs that I did with Colt, and one of them I was actually planning to do with Jill, and it was based off of A Day to Remember. So you can look out for that too. So you'll get something like that hopefully within the next probably 6 to 8 months.
I'm looking forward to it, man. Well, for what's gonna be hitting people's ears when this episode is out, and again, it was cool to connect with you before we officially hit record with this podcast and just get to know each other a little bit, and again, just kind of that funny synchronicity with Forever May Fall, and they're awesome. Um, but Fix My Heart, man, is like a really it's a deep track. It's a track that is, I mean, I would say close to the heart, but it's literally your heart and like what you've gone through on your mental health journey. The music video for it is equally as powerful. And I encourage anybody, I mean, well, everybody continue listening to the podcast, but once you're done listening to the podcast, if you haven't seen the music video, watch it. But you know, one of the things I love about music, you guys, is like it's gotten me through a lot. You know, the anxiety issues that I've had since I was a kid, and the stuff like that we were talking about a little bit before we hit record that we'll get into. Music's the thing that is a form of expression when I felt like I couldn't express it. You know what I mean? Whether it was anger, whether it was sadness, whether it was any form of grief, whether it was positivity. We all have those songs or those artists that get us through the day sometimes, man. And lyrics are always something that I pay attention to. And so in this song, when I listened to it, when we were texting, you're like, Have you watched the video yet?" And then and I hadn't had a chance to watch the video yet. And then I watched the video and I was like, damn, this is a really, really heavy video, man. Like this is like this dude's bearing his soul right now. Um, so you mentioned, man, like, you guys coming together, meeting Aaron, getting back into music, um, Jill, you know, having the idea for the band name. I mean, this is what you're doing is super personal, Chris. What was it like, I guess, just penning this song and then being able to come up with a video for it that really encapsulates its whole vibe? Because I really feel like you guys hit a slam dunk with you know, having a visual representation of what the song is all about.
So Aaron and I were just talking about this before we got on here, and I might have even texted it to you, but the idea behind the song kind of started off as a joke. Obviously, mental health is not something you take very lightly. But we were in the studio, and myself and the other two producers, you get the three of us together, and it's like a bunch of monkeys in the circus. Like we're all unhinged, and we all say like dumb stuff, and I don't remember who said what, but I looked at one of them and I was like, man, you need therapy. Like, what is the matter with you? And Sam just turns around like this, and he says, I'm already in therapy. What's the matter with you? And I'm like, so am I. And Jordan was like, well, now I feel left out because I'm the only one that's never been to therapy. So then the two of us started educating Jordan on what it's like to be in therapy. And the more we talked about it, we're like, we should write a song about this. And so then Jill was actually in the studio with us. And I think she came on the second day when we were doing some lyrics and stuff. And she's like, I really like this. She's like, this is kind of vibey. And she's like, what's it about? And then we told her, and she's like, oh, this is gold. Like, this is great. So, yeah, I'm really glad that you liked it. And I really hope that a lot of people like yourself, like me, or even anybody that doesn't, like, they're not at the point that we are. If somebody's going through any of the motions that I went through in that video, a lot of it is, there's a scene where I was trying to use some of my hobbies to kind of like make myself feel better, not to take a line out of the song, but working out, working on my car, playing music, walking my dogs, things like that I try to utilize to improve my quality of life, make myself feel better about myself, and just kind of get through it. Those are really intimate things about my life that I want to share with people, that like, if they're struggling, like, they can get through it too. And like, I mean, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you mentioned in the song too, talking about overthinking, and that's like something it's something I do. I'm laughing because it's like it's I do it every day. Like, and it's just, and it's and therapy has kind of helped me, it's helped me to kind of, it's always good when you have an unbiased professional third party, in my opinion, to kind of help you get outside of yourself a little bit and sort of understand kind of why you are the way you are, and
Yeah.
therapy has really, really helped me process trauma that I've gone through um over the last few years. But it's also kind of helped me get out of sort of that irrational mindset, because I struggle with like intrusive thoughts. And uh to bring it to music, there's actually a lyric from Korn, one of my favorite bands, and I love Jonathan Davis. That dude just like emotes when he sings. But in Start the Healing, he says the more you fall for it, the more it starts to stick. And so whenever I catch myself overthinking, I kind of like I play that in my head, like the more you fall for it, the more it starts to stick. Kind of like, hey Mike, don't this is irrational, don't go down that path. So when you talk about overthinking in the song, I relate to that. But also in the video, what I really love too is at the end of it, you and Jill are at the table and like you're smiling. And I think like we texted about that too. Like that was important. I felt like to show people like, hey, you're gonna have bad days, but whether you're in a relationship or not isn't really the point. The point is kind of more, or at least the way I kind of took it is like, hey, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Like you said, if you put in the work, um, there's hope. There's you got to keep the faith and like just stick with it. And I think that was a really cool kind of way for a song that is in a visual for it that is very heavy in terms of mental health to show that hey there's light here, man. So I thought that was a cool way to kind of like wrap up the video.
Yeah. I mean, total sidebar, but to kind of encompass a little bit what you said or add to it, um, it helps to really have a support network outside of your therapist. And I know I keep harping on it, and I keep saying it, but I love my wife, and there was plenty of times just like you, like I overthought everything, still do. Um, I've had intrusive thoughts at times. There's even a line in the song that says, like, I don't feel like I'm gonna ever get out of here without a fucking bullet. So, um, like, it really helps to just have a good support system, not just a wife or a spouse or friends or family, but you need that outside of your therapist's office, because without that, like, you're only doing you're basically undercutting yourself if it's just you and your therapist. And if you don't have a support system, like, how else are you supposed to learn and grow and experience, like, authenticity and true love, you know
100%, man. 100%. And it's wild you say that because like yeah, I've a lot of my really close friends and family are, we're all kind of spread out now. I moved when I moved here to Tennessee to Nashville, I didn't really know anybody, and so I kind of had to like, you know, kind of find community here. Um, and then I'm sure you guys can relate to this because I think we're probably all around the same age, but you know, having that support network, it does get challenging in your 30s, right? Because people start to get married or have kids or, grow in their careers, traveling for work. Um, when you're young, I feel like I don't want to say being a kid is easy because it's not, because there's some kids that suck. I like, there's some bullies and there's some crappy people. And I think everybody can kind of relate to sort of those awkward tween and teen years, even if you were quote unquote popular in your high school, there's still cliques, and that clicky nature isn't good for your mental health. Even if you are in that group that is well liked or whatever. I digress. But like, so I'm not saying like being a kid is easy, but in terms of community, I feel like as a kid, like it's a little bit more natural because you're in school Monday through Friday, right? I mean, unless you're homeschooled, but like for the for the majority of kids out there, right? You're going to school Monday through Friday. So you can kind of find your tribe, right? Like whether it's sports, music, art, um, kids that are in like Glee Club and stuff like that, or like math club, like you can kind of find like your group, you know. But when and even in college, same thing, you're around a lot of people who are in the same boat, even if they're from different parts of the state or the country. If you go to college or whatever, um, you're kind like I was kind of in my until my mid 20s, I was just kind of always around people my age. And then once I moved here in my late 20s, it's like I had to work for it more because I wasn't in my hometown anymore. I wasn't around all my buddies that I grew up with. And then when COVID happened and it put a lot of people into isolation, I think that's really when it seems like anyway, like not that people weren't talking about mental health before, but I feel like now we've kind of turned a corner because, putting people in isolation, like it was, and there's stuff that obviously we didn't know about the virus and that at the time. But even me, like working from home on one end, I'm like, oh, it's cool. I don't have to like deal with the Nashville traffic. But on the other end, it's like there's a difference between like I'm going to choose to stay at home. I don't feel like going out versus like, well, I can't go anywhere. I might get sick or I might get somebody else sick indirectly. And I started going a little nuts, so bouncing off, bouncing off of four walls in my apartment. So a long way of me saying I think that's a really salient point, man. Like you got to be able to have a life and a world outside of just your therapist if you're in therapy, because it's important to have community and be able to have people that are a support system for you, whatever it is, people to spend time with, people to have fun with, people to just like, whether you're like scrolling and watching like funny Instagram reels or like going out and going to a game or going to a show, it's important. But I've just discovered in my own personal experience, it is more challenging in your 30s just because adulthood people have so much going on, especially if they have kids and really, busy careers or jobs where they travel. You really got to work at it. And you kind of find out who your friends are in a lot of ways too.
You do.
Well, I'm really excited about the song, man. Again, we're kind of almost like manifesting, like I'm manifesting when this hits people's ears because we're talking about a week before it officially drops. It'll be mid-September when this is hitting everybody's ears, but the song officially comes out August 23rd, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm just gonna manifest like lots of streams and lots of views on the music video. But since we're kind of gearing up for that release as people or as we're talking, and it'll be out when people hear this, how exciting is it? You mentioned how you guys came together, putting this band together, getting back into music. There seems to be a lot of rejuvenation behind trauma therapy, man. Like, how exciting is it for both of you guys just to be in a situation like this? Because I think it's really cool. It's really exciting to be able to have something that you're proud of and more stuff in the works on the horizon.
It's definitely exciting. For me, it's not just rejuvenation. This is this is kind of a little bit of redemption for me, for myself. Um, there was a good period of time last year where I really had a lot of self doubt. Um, I went through a period of like back and forth of, do I still want to do this? Do I not want to do this? Am I happy doing this? Am I gonna be happy if I do this? Um, Granted, you can't take money with you when you leave this place. Um, but the more you think about it, if you spend a little money, you do something cool. I thought about it and I was like, what kind of legacy do I want to leave behind for everybody? And heaven forbid, like I don't take any day for granted. I tell my wife every single day how much I love her and I appreciate her every single day, multiple times a day. And heaven forbid if anything were to happen to either one of us, that's the legacy that I want to leave behind. Is that like I did cool stuff, and hopefully my message in some way helped someone else that was maybe struggling or going through something. Um, and quite honestly, like, all that set aside, since, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. um, I want something that's like, Jill and I want to have a family. So I want to be like, yeah, you see that? Like your dad did cool stuff. Like your dad was cool one time. We just had this conversation on the way home from dinner the other night that, it's a goal for both of us to try to get our kids involved with music to some capacity. Obviously, if they want to, great. But when they're at that tender age, somewhere between, like 2 and maybe 7 or 8, where it's like, it's really awesome to be standing on the side of the stage or front row watching your mom or dad like do cool stuff, like to be a rock star. Like not a lot of kids get that opportunity, you know, like I think that's pretty cool. So plus, you know, like when my kids are maybe in middle school or high school and, you know, they got their friends over or whatever, like I can be like, oh yeah, you didn't know your dad was a rock star? Like you don't remember when you were 3 years old and I brought you on stage and, you know, like you sang such and such song with me or I sang to you or whatever, you know, like just cool stuff like that. So I'm excited. Um, I'll be really relieved when this one's over and released. I feel like all the hard work that we've put in is just getting started, just to get to this point. So we've got a long road of promotion for a good maybe 30 to 60 days afterwards. Um, and then we can focus on something else. And I mean, this isn't the first or the last time you'll hear from us because we've got almost 12 tracks we're sitting on right now. Half of them are demos, and then we've got 3 of them that are done. We just need to film a couple more videos over the next little bit here.
That's awesome. And I want to give some shout outs too to some of the people y'all have worked with. Pangea Productions, right? Cody Weisinger, if I hope I'm saying his last name right. Is it Cody Weisinger?
Yep.
Will Baker, the aforementioned Colt from Forever May Fall, who's just down to earth, awesome dude and a beast of a guitar player as well. But yeah, you've worked with some awesome people. Because is Pangea Productions too? Is that Killicoy?
It is. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Cody Weisinger, he's in the Funeral Portrait, which, if you don't know, they're on tour right now with Marilyn Manson and Five Finger Death Punch. So that's pretty sick. Um, and I think you'll really like that one. That one's a lot heavier than Fix My Heart. Um, and then Will Baker, you know, he's the front man and a second guitarist for Hollow Intent. Um, they're based out of Jacksonville, North Carolina. And obviously Colt, you know, he needs no introduction, no explanation. He's, you know, with Forever May Fall. And we've got some secret squirrel stuff in the works with a bigger producer. We can't really talk about right now. But there's a lot of big things on the horizon right now, for us. And just the things that we want to do and the direction that we're going, we're all on the same page right now. And I mean, hopefully it stays that way. I want nothing but success for everybody in this band. I really want to push everybody past what their limits are. And, you know, I basically took the bar and the glass ceiling out of the equation. And I just said, you know what? There is no glass ceiling. There is no bar. We're either going to do this and see what happens, or we're not going to do it at all. So.
Yeah, you never know unless you try, right? And again, with the music being so personal, especially this first one out the gate, before we officially wrap it up, and thanks again, Chris and Aaron, so much for taking the time, and I appreciate it, and for talking about mental health because it's important. But you know, being vulnerable is difficult. You know, I still struggle with that. You know, after some stuff that I've gone through, you know, opening up to people, and I love talking with people, and I love getting to know their stories and sharing these conversations and stuff. But and I guess I'm being vulnerable right now as I'm saying this, but like true vulnerability is difficult. At least for me, man. And music it's a very personal thing for the artists who make it. So for you, man, both in your mental health journey and I'm trying to make sure this isn't like too loaded of a question or too personal of a question, but for you and your mental health journey and your music journey, was there like a tipping point or a point where you felt you finally felt like you know I feel comfortable sharing this and kind of crossing this threshold because I know it can be difficult to be vulnerable.
So when we wrote Fix My Heart in the studio, I was entertaining the idea of a video with the song, anyways, from the start. And the more the song progressed, the more we came up with lyrics and the song came together. It really made sense that the only way to do this is if we have a therapist in a room sitting with me, explaining anything and everything about being in therapy, explaining the trials and tribulations, the struggles, the suffering, anything that one person could potentially go through or relate to, and try to portray that in a video. And I really think that the video tells that story very well. It depicts, from my point of view, just how much of a struggle I went through, and it is personal. It is really vulnerable, and it takes a lot of guts for somebody to display that. So
Any advice you guys would give as dudes who, obviously music plays a big role in both your lives. It's something that you've loved for a really long time, and that's like, I'm sure, a great outlet for you guys, right, with your emotions. Um, One thing I usually like to ask people, like, for people who are struggling, not to put you in the position of being a therapist or being prescriptive with advice, but just as, like you said, being vulnerable about what you've gone through. What advice would you guys give to people out there who are struggling maybe with whatever it is, whether it's like you said, self-doubt, depression, anxiety, mental health issues kind of come in a lot of different forms. But is there anything that helped you get through that you think would be good advice to pass along to somebody else?
um, 3 words: never give up. Unfortunately, I had a really good friend of mine. He was my guitar player for 2 years. A year ago yesterday, unfortunately, he decided that enough was enough, and he is no longer with us. Um, and it's just one of those things where you never know what the person in front of you, next to you, or behind you is going through or dealing with. And one of the things that I've learned over my 35 years on this planet is kindness. And I like to think that whoever I treat, with respect and dignity and kindness is going to be reciprocated back to me. And that's not always the case, and that's okay. But you never truly know what someone is going through. And like I said in the beginning of this interview, it's okay to not be okay. And I think we need to normalize that. And especially like you touched on COVID, as well as anything from there's so many stigmas right now in the world with politics. We're getting ready for an election in November, and inflation, the economy, and just everything. The price at the grocery store has gone up. The price at the gas pump has gone up. Like, people are having a hard time. And it's like I said, I think we need to just focus on the fact that it's okay to not be okay. But the most important takeaway is you can't give up. You can't give up, because there is someone in the room, or someone or someone that knows someone that probably has an answer to help you. And if they don't, keep digging and keep searching until you find somebody that can help you, because that's exactly what I did.
Well, I'm sorry for your loss, man. Truly, like that's tough, and I don't, I struggle to even find the words with stuff like that, because it's like, yeah, it's tough. It's tough when people aren't here anymore, and they leave before their time, but I think if there's a positive, kind of, you know end to something really awful like that, it would be that, like you said, you haven't, given up on music, you know what I mean? And you're still, you doing this, I'm sure, is something that they're watching you do, and you continue to chase this dream with that. So um I don't, like I said, I wish I had better words. There's been, in my periphery, there's been events like that in my life, and like you said, I'm sure a lot of people can relate. We all know somebody who knows somebody, or somebody that you know personally, like yourself. And it's never easy, but I think the way to kind of pay tribute to people that we love who aren't here anymore is to live the life that we love. You know what I mean? So the fact that you're doing that, man, that you found a life partner that you have an awesome bond with, who inspires you to be a better person, that's a beautiful thing, man. So I don't know if my words have helped at all. It's hard to find the right words sometimes with difficult emotional stuff like that. But I think the fact that you're pushing forward with trauma therapy, and care about the lyrics that you write and the music that you guys are putting out for people will be a great tribute for them. Sure, man.
You got anything?
I can't speak too hard on that, because I don't really have the words for it. But yeah.
Are you not the emotional type?
No,
you don't,
no,
you don't
I
have
don't really
feelings.
have the much
You don't have
like,
feelings.
so
Okay.
I don't want to say the wrong words and upset the wrong people. Or, you know what I'm saying? That's why I'm sitting quiet over here. I'm trying to say the wrong thing. You know. I don't want to upset nobody.
You won't upset anybody, man.
We'll just ignore the fact that Aaron doesn't have feelings. It's okay. I'm just kidding.
No, man. I mean, I guess to put a positive wrap on this, man, like that this is why I love doing the show, though, because life is hard, man. It's full of ups and downs, it's full of curveballs. There's gonna be things that happen to you. There's gonna be things that happen for you, and you kind of just gotta kind of ride those waves, and like you said, man, surround yourself with good people, people who believe in you, um, people who are honest with you and kind with you, in the way they deliver their messages to you. But yeah, the older I get, man, I'm 36, so we're pretty much like the same age. Like it's just, you know, I'm more aware of my mortality, I think. Like I hope that I live till I'm 80, but there's been some death in my world over these past few years, in a short period of time, and it just kind of makes you go, man, yeah, like we don't know how long we have. So it's important to try to live the life that makes you the happiest, and that you can be proud of. Like you were talking about having kids one day and being like, yeah, your dad was a badass, like, and he can still sing, you know what I mean? Like, um, already being conscious of that, man, just through the work that you've put in on your mental health journey, to get where you are. So, yeah, you just got to take things one day at a time, I think, and do the things that make you happy, and bust your ass, and the pieces will fall into place where they may. But that's why I love doing this podcast, though, man. We all got a story, and music is like, I Dan Donegan from Disturbed said at one time, but it really can, man. It can move mountains. So I'm glad that my love for music, and part of the good that came out of COVID for me was getting back into this and doing it more consistently, has brought me in touch with awesome people like you guys, and the fine folks in Forever May Fall too, man. So thank you so much for your time, gentlemen. I really appreciate it. I was really excited to talk to y'all, and I think there's a bright future on the horizon for you, man. And again, I'm sorry if I didn't have the most salient words. I'm always conscious of how much I rant, and I did have 12 ounces of a strong cup of coffee today, and I'm kind of a relatively new caffeine drinker, and I feel like I could already gab with the best of them. So the caffeine just kind of speeds it up. But long may me saying, dudes, I really appreciate the time. I will share the links in the podcast description for people who aren't familiar with trauma therapy, but if they're not aware, let them know where they can find you out there in the interwebs.
Yeah, we if you go on our Facebook page, there's a link tree on there. And let's say the 15th, so about a week and a half from today. Obviously, the song and video will be everywhere, so feel free to drop that link to our Spotify and socials. Hopefully here pretty soon, maybe we'll have some merch. I have some beta test merch in my hand, so if you're a coffee drinker, we have trauma therapy mugs. So yeah, these tumblers are pretty sweet. But yeah, I mean, obviously keep in touch. Text, Facebook message, whatever, email. We really appreciate you and appreciate Johnny for linking us up with you. I've heard a lot of good stuff about you from Joe and Colt, so it's finally nice to actually put a name to the face and actually hang out with you for a little bit.
Alrighty, dighty, there you have it. That was my conversation with Chris Carrington and Aaron Kirkland of Trauma Therapy out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Make sure you go follow these guys on Instagram at traumatherapy.official. The links to all of their stuff will be in the podcast description for this episode. So just scroll down to the bottom of that podcast description, hit those links, and go follow and support Trauma Therapy. Once again, their debut single, Fix My Heart, is out now, available anywhere you get your music. And make sure you also go watch that music video on YouTube, man. Again, like I said at the jump, like you guys just heard in that conversation, man, it's a very, very heartfelt and personal music video, which is why I think it's done so well in such a short period of time as a new band. To have almost 10,000 views on your music video and almost 10,000 streams as of this episode airing. It might even be over that on Spotify alone. So total streams between all of the music services, who knows what it is, man. But I'm so excited for these guys. I can't wait to hear the other music that they've been working on. Chris actually gave me a sneak peek of another song, and it is awesome. It is so gnarly. His voice and what he can do, like we were talking about, and the potential of this band with the other members of the band, including Aaron, who was kind enough to join us on the conversation as well and be part of this podcast, man. Like, I'm so excited for these guys, man. So I just want to say directly to Chris and Aaron, dudes, thank you again so much for taking the time to come on the podcast and share your story with myself and the listeners, and Chris to open up about your mental health journey, give more insight into the song and the music video and your mental health journey and you know, things that have helped you. I really appreciate it, man. I again, there are no words for how important it is for me to be able to talk about this stuff and to know that there's other people out there who want to talk about it as well and are using their platforms for good, man. So I'm sorry you've been through the things that you've been through, but I'm happy that you have found an outlet that's healthy to express it and connect with people in a positive way. And I'm especially happy that you have a wife in Jill who is supportive, who you can bond with over music, but also somebody who really helps you through those difficult days, man. So love all the way around, man. Again, I'm super grateful for you and Aaron coming on the show and giving the skinny on Fix My Heart and Trauma Therapy and what you guys got cooking, man. So once again, everybody, please go follow these guys on Instagram at traumatherapy.official. Again, the links will be in the podcast description for this episode. If this is your first time listening to March 4th, thank you once again for hopping aboard the pirate ship. If Trauma Therapy brought you here, if you did enjoy that conversation, oh, excuse me. If you did enjoy that, never fails. If you did enjoy the conversation and these guys are the ones that brought you here and this is your first time listening, please take the time to like and subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend, share on social media. All those things go a long way in helping these shows get out to more people because it lets the algorithm know that people dug it. And ultimately, that's what I want, man. I want more people to find out about dope artists like Trauma Therapy who are using their platform for good, who are immensely talented. And in addition to that, have a positive voice out here, man. It's important. So if you enjoyed the show, again, I hate begging for all that stuff, likes and subs and smash this button, that button, but all those things, they don't take a lot of time and they really go a long way, man, especially if you leave a rating and a review either on Apple or Spotify too, man. That helps a lot, helps the show rank higher. And again, not to toot my own horn, but in terms of independent music and up and coming artists, man, I've had a lot of really, really awesome musicians on this show. So if you're somebody who has an appetite for that, for new music and finding new artists, you have come to the right place. So once again, you can follow me on Instagram at March 4th Pod. I am on YouTube at March 4th Pod. I got to work on building up that TikTok, but I'm on there. I think that one's March 4th podcast, but the link tree with all of my stuff is in the podcast description as well. So just hit that. You can learn more about me, find past episodes, and yeah. So I was a little lengthy in the intro, which I tend to be because, like I said, on Sundays, I'm a little reflective. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet here at the close and just say that, if you're somebody out there who is struggling right now with whatever it is, man, anxiety, depression, intrusive thoughts, obsessive compulsive tendencies, whatever it is, just know you are not alone. Um, I struggle with mental health stuff. Chris was open about his struggle with mental health. It's okay to not be okay, and you have a community here. You have a home here. I am not a mental health professional, so I will not be prescriptive, and I cannot be prescriptive about any official medical advice. The only things that I can tell you are things that have helped me, and therapy has been a big help for me. Shout out to my therapist, John. He's a great guy. Close friends and family who I trust with my life have been very helpful with me and leading me on more positive paths when I've gone down some dark paths in my life mentally, and also having positive people in your circle, like Chris mentioned in the conversation, and in addition to that, I think positive hobbies and things to look forward to are really, really important. And that's why I mentioned at the jump, having goals and setting goals and holding yourself accountable to those things. For me, exercise, I can't recommend it enough to anybody out there. Whether you do, whether you don't, it is such a boost to my mental health. When I challenge myself physically, I put on my headphones. I listen to guys like Chris, just bearing their soul on the microphone, surrounded by talented musicians, and it really helps get me through. And getting outside, being in nature, especially this time of the year, man, with the fall and the leaves changing and stuff here in the States, like it's one of my favorite times of the year. And as much as I love music, between staring at a computer all day at my job and staring at computer screens, putting this together and staring at my phone, putting clips and stuff together, being able to detach and tune out and just be outside in nature, and just be listening to the sounds of nature. Again, this might sound cheesy to people, but I don't care. It works for me. That really helps. I feel like when you're in nature and you go down a nice trail, or, even if you go walk at like the local library, you go to like a metro park, even if you've got the sights and sounds of the city and the people around you, I think one of the greatest parts about just getting outside is it helps you get out of your head and it kind of reminds you that you're, there's this big thing that you're a part of in terms of life and just sort of like this spiritual ecosystem of people and of nature colliding. And it helps put things in perspective. It helps put problems in perspective. It helps put positivity in perspective, man. So those are things that have helped me. But if you are struggling, um, I'll put a link in the podcast where you can, get some links for some professional resources. But those are things that have helped me, man. So keep your head up, keep persevering. As somebody who's been through some stuff like we all have in life, man, these last few years were challenging, but those are all things and people who have really helped me get through, man. So I love you. I'm here for you. And I truly appreciate, again, everybody who is checking out the show, because this is all content that's near and dear to my heart, you guys. I love doing this. I love giving you guys these conversations. I love putting people on to new music. It's one of the loves of my life is music, man. And so I feel really grateful to be able to kind of, take the darkness in my life with my mental health struggles and some of the pain that I've endured, and put it into a positive platform. And I'm grateful for everybody and anybody who checks it out and tells their friends about it. So thanks again to Chris. Thanks again to Aaron. Once again, at traumatherapy.official on Instagram. The links to all of their stuff and all of my stuff will be in the podcast description for this episode. So on that note, I'm going to officially wrap this bad boy up by saying keep the faith and be kind to one another and be kind to yourselves. Courtesy of Trauma Therapy. You know what it is. Here is their debut single, Fix My Heart. Peace.
It's been a week since I sat inside this room. Nothing's changed since the last I talked to you. It should come as no surprise that I'm overthinking